ANM is getting stronger. Al-Qaeda in the lands of the Maghreb is getting stronger in that country.
And do you think it's getting stronger after General Traore took over?
It has. Just look at the numbers of attacks. It really has, since 2022. I've been tracking this since I took command. So, no ill will towards him, but...
So, General Langley is in Kenya keeping a summit, and he was interviewed by a Kenyan journalist, a very brilliant journalist, because she asked to put the right questions and hold him to respond to it. Anyway, so remember General Langley, for those of you who don't know that, when he made a statement around 2 months ago or less, when he stated that Abraham Traore is thief in gold out of Burkina Faso to enrich himself. And that sent shockwave through the whole African continent, and there was mass protests against the lies spreading on Abraham Traore. So take a listen to this interview where he's going to elaborate on it, but you must take a listen, a keen listen, and watch his body language and everything. But take a listen, let's watch it together. Boom.
General, let's talk about countries taking on their own autonomy. You are on African soil, not for the first time, but this would be a good moment to ask about one of the countries that has taken its own autonomy, and that's Burkina Faso.
Yeah.
Your remarks recently at the Senate seem to suggest that he's diverting, General Traore, is diverting its 4 billion gold reserves to sustain his military rule rather than for public welfare. These remarks sparked widespread condemnation across the continent. What did you mean by that statement?
Let me speak to Burkina Faso's sovereignty. They maintain their sovereignty. They make their decisions how they use their resources. They make their decisions who their resources go to for military support. That's their sovereign right. But my cautionary tale was just from a military perspective. That was a Senate Armed Services Committee asking me a direct question. Burkina Faso, a lot of great things going on to progress them forward, okay? But then when you look at the military part of it, knowing that that's the epicenter of global terrorism, it was my time to illuminate that this is probably their weakest point, and there needs to be sufficient resources going towards for the whole fight of terrorism in that country, period. They make their decisions though. That's their sovereignty, their sovereign right to make their decisions, what is appropriate, what's not. But I wanted to illuminate that is going in the wrong direction now. ISIS is getting stronger. JNIM is getting stronger. Al-Qaeda in the lands of the Maghreb is getting stronger in that country.
And do you think it's getting stronger after General Traore took over?
It has. Just look at the numbers of attacks. It really has, since 2022. I've been tracking this since I took command. So, no ill will towards him, but the decisions is their own. They're looking for other ways to be able to, they're still on warfighting footing, but it's just going to take more resources.
So
Let me just pause it for 1 minute to straighten out a few things that General Langley is lying about, blatantly lying again, because he's basically a liar. So first, we know about, he said about Abraham Traore is stealing gold, and he's not putting it to good use. Mind you, Abraham Traore, Burkina's Faso economy have been growing rapidly. There's major infrastructure going on. There's tons of factories being built and operate, and it's already operational. And not only that, he built homes for people. Since he has been in as the leader of Burkina Faso, it has basically exploded. When I say exploded, I mean in the sense of economically wise. So that's a blatant lie. And then he said that since Abraham Traore took over, there's more attacks. Mind you, before Abraham Traore, groups had managed, and groups had 40% of the country in the chokehold. Basically, they basically run it, manage it. When Aaron took over, he took back almost 30% of the 40% they from back he retook. They opened over 600 new schools over 600 schools have been reopened. There's neighborhoods, people are moving back into Burkina Faso to show you the great work they're doing. And then he's talking about fund these groups have been getting stronger. Why is this group getting stronger? Because it's being released and leaked by his government that the USAID was funding these groups, arming these groups. There was 20 assassination attempts on Abraham Traore's life. Wait, do you think this stuff was made up? Why is it no one not attacking the Ghana president Nana Akufo before he loses power? What about South Africa? And let's stick to West Africa, Senegal, Cameroon, all these countries. Why is it only this specific president have 20 attempts in less than 3 years on his life? And again, back to the USAID, I did a video around a couple of months back. If I remember, I'll put the link in the description where the Americans abandoned billions of dollars of armored truck, Black Hawk helicopters, fighter jets, multiple ground-to-air missiles. All kind of thing they left in Afghanistan, and it was taken by these insurgent groups and go and then distributed among them their affiliates. And we have proof that they were sending over 40 million US dollars every week was going to that section of the world to fund these people. How is it these guys are getting drones, satellite phone? Where are they getting these sophisticated weapons from? And let me just roll back a minute. How is it in 2013 when the biggest army, the strongest army, two of the biggest and strongest army, which is the French and American, and the most advanced and sophisticated tools they have, how is it for the 15 years they have been in these countries, the Sahel, there have been an uptick in lives taken and ground loss in the country? And since Aaron Traore took over in 2 years, he has regained most of what was taken and reopened up a lot of the communities and schools and hospitals and all these things. And he's been in power for 3 years and just have 12 drones or 15 drones they have. The US base that was in Niger that they spent $100 million on had hundreds of drones. So who are they watching? How is it you have this major central hub in Niger and they are still being attacked? They are still being school kids are taken in on a mass. But you have drones, you have the latest technology, you have satellites. So how is it this was happening all this time? To show you that these people, they forget people, they think we just forget things that was done and said, and also things that was really proven. They're gonna come and talk about because of eventually there's uptick. It's quite opposite because they are the ones who are funding and arming these groups to take him out because what? It's exposing all the hypocrisy and all the thief and all the corruption that's been going on by the Western countries. Anyway, let's continue the video before we continue to do a monologue. Let's continue the video.
So you stand by that statement? Because there's been pressure on you to walk those statements back.
That's my statement. That's my assessment. That is getting worse. More needs to be done for not just local, but whole of country, because of these violent extremist organizations are seeking revenue, they're seeking resources, they're seeking recruiting from the Burkinabe people, and they're seeking refuge within their country. That threatens their sovereignty.
And that threatens America's interest?
Say again?
Does that then threaten America's interests?
Yes, thank you for asking that. Because especially ISIS, and of course in East Africa is inextricably linked all the way to ISIS West Africa, ISIS Sahel, and there's going to be probably a move afoot for them to move and seek refuge within the line. So we have shared objectives, and we offer to work together with the Burkinabe government and border countries, Mali, Niger, coastal West Africa countries, collective, because here's what these organizations do. Here's what these terrorist organizations do. They seek refuge in the seams or the borders of these countries and lets them thrive and grow and lets them recruit, gain resources to carry on their illicit and nefarious activities against the populations of those people.
And what would America, perhaps AFRICOM, be prepared to do? Would you be considering an ouster like we saw with Muammar Gaddafi in Libya? Because there's still many Africans who are yet to recover from that. If this is a bigger threat, as you say, in Burkina Faso, what is AFRICOM prepared to do about it?
We do indications and warnings. There's a number of activities that we do, and we'll just go ahead and mention building institutional capacity. There's not going to be U.S. boots on the ground. Very, very small for exchange of ideas and training, exercises. Over time, that builds institutional capacity and capability in these armies. There, AFRICOM, we are working towards a burden sharing and a burden shift for their independent operations. That's our goal. We have the shared objectives because these same terrorist groups can threaten our homeland. So we're in concert. I was just in African Lion over in Morocco. A number of countries working together to be able to address.
Is Burkina Faso invited here today for this conference?
Yes. Yes. They were invited to African Lion in Morocco. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Like I said, we're moving forward.
Okay.
We're moving forward because we have that shared goal of defeating terrorism.
All right.
Let me stop it one more time. This is the last time I'm going to stop it. But you see, AfriForum is, well, it was created by Obama, and AfriForum basically a U.S. In my humble opinion, it's a spy group that they spy on African countries, gather intel and information, and then send it back to necessary force. So this idea that AfriForum is to aid African countries, to help them to fight extremists. But since they have been there, they are more better armed and better funded since they so-called come to help these African countries. How is that possible? How is it the most powerful army in the world cannot find a few people that comes across the border, according to them? Well, matter of fact, they know where they are, because they say they are by the borders and recruiting. So if you know this, why isn't there any action taken? Why are these people just willy-nilly doing this for the past, 15, 20 years? And you're there to prevent such things. This shows you that this is just a net they are there. AfriForum is there to get information to replace presidents that they don't like what they did to Patrice Lumumba when they aided, because there's documents proof that the US aided in assassinating Patrice Lumumba. And a few others. Sankara was assassinated by the West because they used his best friend and then they put him in power. They look what they did to Libya with Gaddafi. And up to today, Libya is in a worse state than it was ever been. 12 since 2011, so 15 years on, 14, 15 years on, Libya is doing worse, and they claim that they were there to liberate Libya, but it is being now it becomes a third country. Remember, Libya had free education, free healthcare, free housing. Every time someone marries, they get 5,000 on a home, and they get a percentage of the oil reserve, and they have the most gold in reserve at the time. So a country that was thriving, you went in to so-called free them, and now they are dirt poor. There's insurgents all over the place, and there's warring factions in Libya up to today, 15 years after they so-called take out account to them a dictator. And that's when the same thing with Ilham Churi, because again, there were 20 attempts on his life. Can you imagine if they had succeeded in any one of these attempts? We wouldn't be talking about the Sahel nation now and the Sahel region. And No, let me just finish this video and then I'll make a few more comments after that. Take a listen. Not take a listen. Continue listening. Boom.
Speaking of that, because the reaction out of the statements that you made about Burkina Faso were several African leaders feeling you are speaking on sovereignty issues that America shouldn't be. And as a result, there are those who see the role of Africa as less of a partner in, the war against, shared threats, as you mentioned, and more of a protector of Western or American economic interests that allows access to Africa's vast mineral resources, and as more of a paternalistic relationship than one of respect amongst peers. What would you respond to that?
I respond that there's others on the globe that do that. There's others on the globe that
Like
do that.
who?
Now, I'm going to even bring it up. We should have even already know, okay? But I'm going to even bring that up.
Okay.
We respect the sovereignty. We respect their decisions. We respect their decisions of who they choose as a security partner. And then we measure the common denominator that's keeping these countries across the Sahel from progressing forward. In 2050, the largest workforce on the globe is going to come out of the continent of Africa. The youth need hope. They need peace and stability so they can hit their potentials. That's a long-range goal of AFRICOM as we look to help these countries set those conditions for stability and security so prosperity can be presented to all the populations and the youth. Pan-Africanism is real and it's strong, and there's an opportunity to come up on the global stage, and this continent can do it. That's what we really envision.
So you're not concerned about China and Russia expanding their military and economic influence across the continent?
We are concerned about it, yes.
What about it concerns you?
Well, their influence. Their influence may not be looked upon as being a positive influence.
For who? For America or for Africa?
Well, for Africans, okay? And then so Americans have that in mind, that for the African people and across all countries be able to hit their maximum potential and independence and sovereignty and also freedoms by rules-based international order, being able to get on the global stage and take a leadership role and provide for the people in peace and stability. Some of those aims are not the same as the approach of those other countries on the global stage. So that's my perspective.
Do you have a counter strategy?
Do we have a counter strategy as far as to
China, Russia, their presence, because you say it doesn't align with the shared values?
Well, what we watch is the continent of Africa does not need to be militarized, let's put it that way. Does not need to be militarized. So we watch, as far as security agreements and what does it mean? Is it really for the stability to fight the threats of a African country, or is it for them and their ability to establish a global hegemon of basis? That's what concerns us.
Okay. We'll have to leave it there for now. Thank you very much,
right.
General Michael Langley. Thank you very much for speaking with us.
So that's the end of the video. And he's talking about they're worried about what Russia and China is building influence in Africa. Russia is the only country in the world that has ever actually helped African brothers and sisters without any strings attached. From since in the 60s and the 50s with 50s and the 60s with South Africa with apartheid. That's where Russia have been aiding African brothers and sisters, and also Cuba. During quick history, during apartheid, when it just started in the early 60s, late 80s, late 50s, early 60s, when the the leaders have to run from South Africa and go elsewhere to live because they're afraid of being put to death. The first country they went to was the US for help. You know that they didn't even get a chance to even see any of the senators or not even, none of the senators. They saw no one important. They was told they cannot be helped. In the 60s, Cuba came through and helped South Africa. Russia sent men and weapons to South Africa to aid in the fight, the struggling during that time. So how is it now? You're going to come and talk about your day to help Africa. When you get a chance that you never did. In decades, you've been basically stealing the resources of the country, enriching themselves and enriching their economy, building their own economy, and keep Africa in chaos because they can keep reaping the benefits of what they're happening. So that's basically what AfriForum is. It's an extended version of, extended arm branch of the government that, to spread this information, keep the eyes on the resources, and try to take out who they don't agree with and make sure they put in their own people who to gain benefits from. That's all AfriForum is, a network of gathering intelligence on African countries and presidents to see who next they need to get rid of. That's it. And it was put there by who? Obama, because if other presidents have done it, it will be a big, it'll make major news because they use President Obama to soften the blow when it comes to Africa. Because he's black, he's the first black president, so we'll accept him no matter what he does, and that's what they counted on, and we did accept another thing that we shouldn't have accepted because it was Obama who was the one who was at the head of it. So we're basically using him. So this is just this is my view. So, but most of my view is based in information that's released, and also documentation of documenting these issues that we have, like the death toll in the Sahel, when it started, who caused it, who take out some of our most beloved presidents, Sankara, Patrice Lumumba, Mugabe, I forgot the Ghana president. I always mess up his name. Anyway, sorry about that, but this is what they do, and they plan 20, 30 years in advance. They don't plan now for now, and that's what we as Africans have to stop doing. Stop using the Western style democracy to run Africa. It won't work. It's been proven by the Sahel nations, Mali, Niger, Burkina Faso, and Rwanda, and Uganda. We need to get rid of this kind of so-called democracy where you can nothing can get done, or everything has to go through a process and take 2-3 years, and then that's how Western democracy breathe corruption. Cause that's how, if I'm in the opposition and you want to pass something, you have to give me something. You have to give me something to get your bill passed. That's how corruption is started, and it's rampant in this state. Even though they accuse everybody of being corrupted, they're one of the most corrupted nations because everyone become a senator, become a millionaire. There's not one broke senator in the U.S. Senate. Mind you, they're getting 125,000 per year, but yet they're all millionaires. Most of them worth 20, 30 million. How do you get this money? Where is this money coming from? I rest my case. Anyway, let me know what I think about this interview with General Langley, where he was sent to smooth over what he did with and said about President Abraham Traore and his blatant lies, and just the audacity of even President Ruto of Kenya hosting this is a whole other conversation. Anyway, let me know what you guys think about this. Let me hit me up in the comment section. And I'm also shadow banned, so spread the word, spread the video, so I can start to get my videos out, because I've been shadow banned. This is my 3rd to 4th time of being shadow banned. I was even also kicked out of the YouTube program at one point for 4 months to show you the fight we're getting into to open the minds of our brothers and sisters globally. So anyway, thanks for watching, thanks for listening. Boom.